did a video like this. I've been trying to work on the cars a little bit more, but so the way that I think about stuff sometimes is something will happen and that'll trigger something in my mind, and that'll get me going down a track of thinking about certain things. And so the thing that's happened here kind of recently is you started like thumping with your finger, and you'd be like, does that hurt? And kind of smile and like, no. And you just keep doing it, does that hurt? And so that made me think of my Uncle Richard. So my Uncle Richard is my dad's brother, or was my dad's brother. And I'll put a picture up of him. But when we were younger, he would do this thing where he would like grab you, and then he would take his, normally it would be his middle finger like this, and he would just go thump you right on top of the head, like right here. And he called it a canavel off the dock, and he had these just like big sausage fingers, and he'd just be like, oh, it felt like he was crushing in your skull. And yeah, it hurt, but it was all meant to be fun and everything like that. And there were different times that they had some type of little Chihuahua breed of a dog, and he'd be sitting there on the in his chair or couch or whatever, and the dog would just come up and like sit on one of his shoulders. And this happened with like a couple different dogs. He would just sit up on his shoulder like a pirate with his parrot, just sit there. And if you'd go up and kind of smack at him a little bit or something like that, or go up to him, it would try biting you and stuff. I remember he had like a more of like a blondish colored one and a black one. So it was more than one little Chihuahua dog that did this, which was thinking about was really weird. And so with it, it also made me think about one of the stories that I always heard growing up about my uncle. And so everybody called him Flash. And you'll see from the picture that my uncle, kind of like my grandfather, was called Tiny. And I don't think my grandpa was that tall, but he wasn't a small man either. And if you see my uncle, you'll understand that he's probably not going to be that fast. And so how would he get a nickname like the Flash, you know, from the comic books, that super speed and all that stuff like that? Well, I've heard the story, and I've kind of heard it with just a slight variation, but it went something like this. He was at a local little bar one night, and he was drinking a little bit. And the way the story was told to me, and this is the part that people vary on, is that he had his dog there, and when it came time to go, well, the story is the dog was or was not there. So the story that I heard is that the dog was there, and a local cop knew him and wasn't trying to do anything, but was just trying to say, hey, I'll give you a ride home, that way you get home safe, and didn't want to take the dog. And so he started getting mad because he didn't want to leave the dog. And I've heard that they didn't want him driving home, and he started just getting irate. The dog wasn't there. So whatever, the dog might have been there, the dog might not have been there, I'm not sure. But the story goes, they were going to take him home. He started getting more and more aggravated. So they handcuffed him and threw him in the car. And he did not really care for that. So he ended up kicking the door off of the cop car, breaking the handcuffs, and taking off running down the road. And at that point, the cop was like, well, he broke the handcuffs and he kicked the door off. I don't really want to mess with him too much. So the story was told that the cop just, you know, drove over to my grandparents' house and knocked on the door and was like, hey, you know, when Richard wakes up, tell him he needs to come down. He owes us a set of handcuffs and a door for the car. And so because of that incident, he became the Flash. And so that nickname stuck with him the rest of his life. But like, one of the things that you don't really think about is, well, he never really left home. And so he never really had a job either, besides like all these odd jobs. And I always thought that was kind of weird. But he never married. I don't think he ever had a serious relationship. And he was just always at my grandparents' house. And, but like, one of the things that he had is he was really strong. And you know, you hear about him kicking a door off of a cop car and breaking a set of handcuffs. Well, he had this little Chevy Love pickup truck, and I'll put a picture kind of like the one that he had. You know, so these were like smaller, like Ranger style pickup trucks from the 70s. And his was this like light baby bluish color. And I don't remember what was going on. I just remember coming up to my grandparents one time, and he needed to work on something for it. And my grandpa had this like little workbench on the side of the house, and the part that he needed to work on, I don't really know what he needed to do, but he decided the best way to do this and work on the truck was to take the engine out. Now, most people would need to go get some type of engine puller or cherry picker or something like that to lift the engine out of the truck and all that stuff like that. So I'm over there, and I really can't see what he's doing, and I'm younger, so I don't really understand what's going on. But the next thing I see him do is he sticks his hands down into the engine bay, grabs the engine, kind of just bear hooks it, picks it up, and then proceeds to walk it over to this table. And I'm just like, oh my God. I mean, it wasn't a big engine, but still, it's an engine from a vehicle, and he just, you know, ripped it out of the truck, and then he goes over and starts working on it. And then when he was done, he did the exact same thing and opposite. He just picked it up in a bear hook and walked it over and put it back in the truck and fixed what he needed to fix. And to see that and to realize, you know, he had strength like you would not believe. And I've got a cousin that's kind of the same way as him. He's really strong, but that's like a different story. But when was this? So I think it was a couple years ago, when my grandma died, my nanny died. I went back to Mount Vernon. We were kind of talking about that, and the whole story about how he became the Flash got brought up, and then other stories were being told. And one of the ones that I kind of never knew, because I can't remember when Uncle Richard died, but I want to say he had a heart attack, and I want to say that they said that he was about 450 pounds when he died. Like I said, I'll put up a picture. You can see he wasn't a small guy. And so for him to even have the Chevy Love truck was kind of interesting, because he looked like a big clown or something, you know, clown car getting into this thing to begin with. But my Uncle Mike was kind of talking about it, and he was talking about when Uncle Richard died, and he was saying how when that happened, it like broke my grandfather, Tiny. And the reason that it did that is because he was saying, you know, he couldn't afford the funeral is what it was. And pretty much what it was is he was saying, what kind of man am I if I can't even afford to pay for my son's funeral? And so that kind of just broke him in a way. And I'd never heard that or knew any of that until, you know, a couple years ago. But the sad part about it is I'm just, like I said many times, I'm not too close with any of my family. So I live in Georgia. My dad's side lives in Illinois. My mom's side lives in Arkansas. I haven't spoken to my dad right now, probably 3 years, something like that. And I'm trying to change that. And I've thought about all this like before, when I have a family, how it was going to be, and it's kind of played out the way that I thought it was going to, but I wish that I had something more that I could give to you for that part, but it's just not going to happen. The relationship between me and my father, it's so broken. I can't see it changing, and it's not like in the past that I haven't tried. And this wasn't going to be about him, but the problem is he's just so consumed by everybody wrongdoing him. He can't see anything past that. And I don't want to be that way. And if you talk to him, the few times that I've talked to him, like there for about a 5-year period, I was trying to I guess you could say, build a relationship with my dad, because he was a truck driver. He was never really around that much. But it would be the conversation that you would have would be the same one the week before. That was the same one that you had for 5 years about how when my mom divorced him, she, screwed him over. And when my ex-stepmom Melody screwed him over, and his sister, and just all this stuff. And it just, after a point in time of hearing that, you're just like, he can't move past it. Man, I didn't want to go down this rabbit hole today. But I was trying to be a little bit more upbeat with this video. And it does tie back into the whole popcorn video, because I remember Nanny making popcorn for all of us and everything like that. And I know I'll never find a picture. This just made me think of another thing. My dad and my Uncle Richard had this friend named Timmy Daniels. So this will be a little funny one to end it on. And because I don't really know how to tell this story any other way. And I don't think I'll ever be able to find a picture of Timmy, because I just don't have any pictures of stuff. And so Timmy Daniels was a friend of my dad's, and like friend of the family. And this dude walked around with a bottle of Tabasco sauce in his pocket, like hot sauce. And he would not eat anything unless it had Tabasco sauce on it. I always thought that was so weird. It didn't matter what it was. He would not eat it. You could put the best steak, dessert, cookies, whatever, chips. If it didn't have Tabasco sauce on it, he wouldn't eat it. And so it's just, as you go through life and meet people, you'll find out and just see that there is all kinds of just random weird stuff out there. So with that one, I will say that I love you, Finn, and I'll try to keep telling these stories.